Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and I'm currently driving a C8 Corvette. And I have been really excited to bring this video to you guys. We're driven a lot of performance cars, a lot of 500 to 1,000 horsepower cars, and I'm finally now getting my chance to drive a 2024 Corvette. Even though this is just the base model, a 2LT, and Twin Full Subaru was kind enough to let me borrow it for the day. I'm actually gonna, let's turn it out of track mode because it just wants to hold RPM. We're gonna maybe go down to tour and cruise around for a little bit. But anyways, I just got done finishing my regular review of the C8 where it's a little bit more objective, a little bit more details. This is seriously just such a fun car that I wasn't ready to give it back yet. I wanted to drive it around a little bit more, share a more lengthy version of my driving impressions because in that video, it's only about 3 minutes and then a 0 to 60. So this video, I can show you even more. Driving around the highway, the country, it's really fun, and even in touring mode, from a 52 mph roll, the 8-speed transmission, and the LT4 powertrain is no joke. This thing freaking rips. Even today, we're at density altitude, we're over a mile above sea level, so this vehicle is down on power over 25%, and it does a really good job. Yep, it gets right up to speed pretty easily. There was a little bit of chirp, but not as bad as I saw earlier on a worse road. And if you like anything that you're seeing today, please consider liking this video. It not only helps this video get shared, but also helps YouTube know that you want to watch more stuff like this. Thank you. You have great visibility when you're driving the C8. Despite what some people have said, my driving position at 5'11", I can see just fine. And I really do appreciate that this digital rear view camera, which is option, you don't have to have it, but I do really appreciate that that is now standard on the Corvette. You can see the wide hips in the mirror depending on how you angle them. If you really turn around when you're not driving, you can see the engine back there too. And honestly, from the driver's seat, it's really comfortable. This one specifically has Lambo doors installed from the Vertical Door Company, but me and my backpack, we got in here just fine. And I actually feel like I'm held in really well for these not being the most aggressive seat that you can get in a Corvette. I'm pretty well bolstered. I do think if you have weak knees, if you are a little bit on the heavier side, you're not gonna have a lot of fun getting in here. But once you're in here, you're not gonna wanna get out of it. And even maybe giving it a half brake pedal slows down really well. If you really get on the brakes, the car's tuned to actually downshift and help you out that way. But up to speed again. That wasn't even 100% throttle, especially by the end of it. And we're back up to the speed limit. This thing is seriously such a blast. You do notice there is a lot of reflection, but that's because you have some pretty cool dash trim layout. It does take just a tiny bit of time to get used to what the cockpit feels like, the fighter pilot sensation of being in here for how those Chevy interior engineers designed it. But it is seriously such a great car, and I'm having a lot of fun ripping around in it. Anyways, guys, let's turn it back to track mode with the turn of a dial right here. Goes into sport. You get a little cool Corvette display right there. Although I do wish the software engineers tuned that to be the same color as your car, because this is the gray color. But now we're in track mode. You'll notice the center display changed a little bit. I do have traction control off still. And in just a second, I'll show you what it does 0 to 60. But keep in mind, when we do, it's down on power a quarter. So instead of 500 horse at the peak, it's probably making in the upper 300. Also, my private road isn't much better than these roads I'm driving on. So you gotta be a little bit forgiving to it. But let's maybe take this corner at some speed up ahead and see how the 60% weight distribution on the rear feels. Yeah, this is literally like nothing. I could really push this. Yeah. Pretty interesting. It might even handle corners at speed better than my Miata because this weighs about 1,000 pounds more. So that's pretty interesting. But if you really want to get putting the power down, if you do a brake rev when you have traction control off, you will spin the tires loose. You will lose traction, surprisingly, for how heavy the rear of this vehicle is. But going mid-engine, it's one of the best things that Corvette ever did, especially for making this a more mild and easier to control vehicle. A 500 horsepower Z06 from the 6th gen, something like that, you're gonna have a lot harder time controlling this than you are this mid-engine one. And a lot of people haven't loved that about it. They think that this is too soft, this is too stable. And although I do agree it does feel a lot more stable, if you really want to go fast, this is how you go fast. Anyways, guys, let's do a little bit of a brake rev and I'll show you what I'm talking about with losing traction. True 0 to 60 came in at 4.82 seconds with a whole lot of wheel spin. And it's pretty agile when it's time to turn around. It can turn around quickly. And I am just not used to having this much stability. It just wants to rev hang and hold those RPMs. So we're gonna go back to a softer mode like touring or my mode. I'm not sure how the previous owner set that up. This one is slightly used. Again, it's at Twin Falls Chevy. It's broken in and it's ready to have a good time. So I'm gonna link this one in the description below if you're interested. But in touring, it seriously is so much more manageable. It's probably time to cut to the 0 to 60. So these are rated at best, maybe 2.8, 2.9, but that's usually without rollout counted. So truly that's more like a 3.2. And now let's see what it can do. And true 0 to 60 came in at 4.16 seconds. With traction off on my private road, which isn't sticky, I don't think that's very bad, especially when it's down on power about 25%. That's just what a mid-engine car can do. A base model, sub 500 horse, and we're still doing a 4.1 second true 0 to 60. That's pretty impressive. So a 4.1 is honestly not bad at all. In fact, that's actually about what my buddy Jaden's supercharged C6 Corvette runs on some really sticky tires. A much higher horsepower car than this, but you know, it's a front engine car. Or with the Trackhawk runs or Model Y performance, those are all literally like 4-second flat vehicles. So the fact that this one can run that right out the box on one attempt, obviously I could fine tune it a little bit, but it's not my car, so I'm not gonna, you know, beat on it and practice a lot of runs through it. But pretty impressive for what Chevy has done. For instance, when I drove an LS2 C6 maybe a year ago in similar density altitude, that car only ran like a 5.8 if I'm remembering correctly. So for being a base model with a few extra goodies, it's really done quite well. Unfortunately though, because of the rising cost of everything, these are more expensive than they used to be. So a base 1LT Corvette for 2024 is now about a $68,000 car, or the low 70s after your state tax and, you know, all the other fees and things that come along with that. This one, being as loaded as it is a little bit closer to the upper 80s. But is it worth that? Is it worth that for the performance? Yeah, absolutely. Plus it's warranted. It's about as reliable as it gets. And you're driving a mid-engine Corvette with huge functional aero and induction on the hips. And honestly, what's better than that? The backup camera actually works really well on this car. And the seats are super comfortable. Overall, driving this really doesn't feel like driving anything that crazy, even though from the outside it looks crazy and it has crazy levels of performance. It just feels really tame, really mild. I'll show you a little bit more of the backup camera, the side view. It's practical. If you can get by with what this offers you, 12.5 cubic feet of cargo capacity between the front and the rear, it does a really good job. Even light acceleration, and we're up to the speed limit. Literally not even breaking a sweat. There are a few cars that are this fun just to go the speed limit in, but unfortunately driving the speed limit in this is not what it's meant to do. So if you buy one of these, I strongly suggest you find a way to get to a drag strip a couple times a year, or if there's an actual track that you can really run this thing, become a better driver and just see where its limits are. Definitely take the opportunity, because this is what that car is built for. This is not the Corvette just to leave in your garage for 40 years and then sell when it has 11,000 miles on it for 10% of what you paid. This is a car to actually enjoy and to get the value out of it through the driving experience. It's gonna depreciate anyways. It's a C8 Corvette. It's not a limited production car. There's gonna be tens of thousands of these produced every year. On average, there's 20 to 45 or 20 to 46,000 Corvettes produced every year. So they're not as rare as sometimes they're treated. This is a car that's more reliable than most exotics, more affordable and within reach than most performance cars, even at 2/3 the performance level. This is a car to buy and to enjoy, and I strongly recommend you guys get behind the wheel of one. Give it a drive. even if you're just a passenger in it, like my backpack, you're gonna have a really good day, and you're probably gonna be smiling for quite a while after you get out of the doors. Even if it's a struggle to get out of the vertical doors, you're just making it look cool as you do it, because they look cool as they open, as they close. And just looking at this car, even though that's what I just condoned not to do, man, this is a nice car. Drives so well, so smoothly, and I really wish we were in a place today that we could push it. It's also worth mentioning that for driving around town, for this having 20-inch wheels in the back, 18 in the front, it really handles the road well, and it soaks it up quite decently. The suspension on this does a really good job, because those little sticky performance rubber band tires, especially the 305 wide in the back, really, I'm actually really shocked at how comfortable this is to drive. But even though the Corvette does look like an exotic, it's not surprising that this is probably basically the most reliable exotic, because it's made by Chevrolet, which is a company that makes high volume vehicles in the economy class, and obviously performance cars like this. But unlike Lamborghini or Ferrari, who doesn't make performance cars, who don't make a lot of systems that they can share parts from. So when things do go bad at some point, a lot of the electronics in here that aren't Corvette specific are going to be a lot cheaper, because it's going to have the same parts numbers as a lot of the other GM products. And even the parts that are Corvette specific that do fail, you're paying for a General Motors product. You're not paying for, you know, an exotic from Italy or somewhere like that. So that is a pretty cool, reassuring point. But especially that probably half the parts in here that are behind the scenes of what you see right now on the interior, they're going to be shared with other General Motors products, and you know, you're going to find them for cheap at the parts store. You're not going to be waiting months on order for those to ship from overseas if something eventually fails. But having a 5-year, 60,000 mile warranty when you buy one of these brand new, this one does have about 3,000 miles. It's a 2024, but slightly used. You know, you're going to have a lot of fun in this, because what other performance cars are going to be reliable, are going to be this cheap and let you enjoy? And they have a legit warranty, which is pretty darn cool. Anyways, guys, after a couple hours with this car, I don't have any concerns, any complaints, and any reasons to not recommend one. If it fits in your budget, if that's not going to be a stressful purchase or decision, definitely check out the C8 Corvette, especially if you're in the market for a high-performing, mid-engine, big V8 car, because there's not very many of those left. At least not in that combination of all those things that you might be desiring. And if you want an American engineered car, anyways, this is the car for you. Now that I'm even getting back into town, it's seriously so mild. I even, just a moment ago off camera, decided to put it into weather mode. And just sitting here at an idle, it's perfectly quiet. How many cars idle at 500-600 RPM and are going to be this manageable, this easy to drive, and even have the front lift, which I'm going to raise right now. I can actually feel the hood coming up just a tiny bit, but it's cool to be able to hear that electric motor working. Anyways, guys, this has been a really fun car, a really good experience, and I hope you guys had at least 10% as much fun as I had filming this. If you did, give it a big like. That act of kindness really goes a long way in helping me know you want to see more stuff like this, but also helping YouTube know that you also want to see more videos like this. And then comment your thoughts and opinions below. Do you have a C8? Are you considering one? Go test drive one. Otherwise, subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to buy this one or check it out, it's at Twin Falls Chevy, so I'll link them below. But otherwise, until next time, see you guys.